part 3 today. Ideas just sort of keep coming on this idea of soul hunger. I may be done, I'm not sure. We'll see. I've been kind of really looking to his jokes first, since it's my 3rd time on this topic. Jokes about hunger and dieting and food and things like that. So I may be scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit today. Here's a couple of kids' riddles that I thought were kind of cute. Why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. Okay. These are kids' jokes, so give me some credit here. What is the Wolfman's favorite snack? Here's a clue, it's a kind of cheese. Munster! Munster cheese. Okay. All right. What do you call cheese that isn't yours?
Nacho.
Nacho cheese. That's good. Nacho cheese. Okay. And here's some quotes. I think most of these are by comics. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, for they are sticking to their diets. The toughest part of a diet isn't watching what you eat, it's watching what other people eat. Yes. And I think this is George Burns. I've heard this a long time. He said, forget the health food. I need all the preservatives I can get. I like that one. And here's one that was one of my favorite comics growing up, George Carlin. He says, if you ate pasta and antipasta, would you still be hungry? He always asks the big questions, George Carlin. I always like that about him. Well, we've been talking about soul hunger, by which we mean a kind of a deep hunger that sometimes is difficult to satisfy because it's sometimes difficult to identify. There's just this sense of yearning or emptiness that we're not quite feeling full. Mentally, spiritually, we're not quite getting what we need. And we've been sort of trying to track that hunger by tracking what deeply nourishes us now and in the past. What has nourished you most deeply? What are those things? Because if we can get clearer on that, I think we can fill ourselves up better. We can make it so that we are not so hungry and we are feeling more full of life, more full of energy, more full of creativity, more full. And so we've been kind of looking at that, and we've been looking at things like silence. We need silence. We're nourished by silence, times in quiet places. We're nourished by solitude. We've been talking about that. Last week we began to talk about we are nourished by community, especially communities that are inclusive, where everybody's in the circle, everybody's welcomed into the circle, communities where there's some kind of a sense of higher purpose. So this is kind of an extension of that. We are nourished deeply by service, by giving of ourselves, something we know but don't always track in a deep way. Has that been deeply nourishing for you? In what ways? In what situations? Giving of yourself. It's certainly a basic spiritual law, kind of a what goes around comes around law. In every spiritual tradition, there are statements like this. This is from Taoism. Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. In Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the whole Torah, the whole law, right there. And Jesus said, in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. We call that law, what do we call it? The Golden Rule. Everybody gets an A today. And I've got a whole long list of these. In really every spiritual tradition around the world, there's a statement of the Golden Rule in some form. Every religion, every faith tradition pushing this idea that giving to a neighbor, helping another, helps us. Helping make someone else happy makes us happy. And as I was listening to Tom's song a minute ago, I thought, the answer to that question in Tom's song, would I see myself in you if I look closely enough? It's yes. It's always yes. If we look closely enough, we'll realize we're one. And that's why when we help another, we're helping ourselves. If we bring joy to another, we're bringing joy to ourselves, our peace. And alas, it works the other way too. If we are going around spreading discontent and anger and animosity and resentment, we're going to spread a little of that around too. That's going to come back at us. I've always thought it's interesting. There's scientific evidence for this now. It's been around for a while. There's a scientist, his specialty, he does research in neuroscience and biology. Daniel Goleman, he has a book called Social Intelligence. Some of you might have read it. He talks about that we have a social brain, quite literally. We're wired for oneness, quite literally. He talks about we have brain cells, they're called mirror neurons, that kind of reflect back between us, and they're always mirroring back. What we send out is coming back at us. There's this ongoing give and take, kind of emotional give and take that's going on all the time in all our encounters and interactions. No matter what else might be being said or done, there's this emotional, or we might even say mental, spiritual exchange going on. And we are all a part of that, and I think we all know it, we all feel it, but we may not be entirely conscious of that. But in times when we are giving of ourselves in some way to another, we really feel that coming back at us strongly. I had a friend who did massage therapy on a volunteer basis for hospice patients for a while. And he said, they give me so much more than I give them. They have no idea. Doing something like that and seeing how you make someone feel and how that blesses them, blesses you. The mirror neurons are firing and you are feeling that. You are feeling nourished by that in a deep way. And we know why it nourishes the soul so much, because we're one, we're linked, we're connected. And it's wired into our brains, that connection. We know it. So that's great good news for us. We're one with God also, as we are one with another. So guidance is coming moment by moment on how to participate in that exchange, on how to show up, how to nourish one another and nourish ourselves at the same time. And ideas will come to us from God in us if our antennae are up inwardly and outwardly, and we're alert to ways to serve, to share what we have. And we all have something, no doubt about that. Sometimes we have a tendency to discount our own gifts and think others are greater. There's really, there's no hierarchy in these things. We need everybody's gifts too. We need them all kinds. Kind of like the way a church flies on the volunteer effort of many, and we really need people who can do everything. They're all important, and all can be a great blessing to others in the world. We've had a musician, Carl Anthony, in town a number of times too. He has family in Cincinnati, and sometimes he comes back to Ohio, and we've had him here at the church. And he does regularly work in the kind of healing arts department of a children's hospital in San Diego, where it's home base for him. And he has a number of stories and even some videos about that on his website. And Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. Basically, he strolls around the hospital with his guitar, and he knocks on doors and asks if anyone wants a song, or maybe even write a song together. And he'll go in, and he's got certain songs he does often with children and parents. He has this little song he wrote called Angel. I see an angel in you, I see an angel in your eyes. And children like repetitive songs. And it kind of repeats and repeats. I see an angel in your eyes. And he talked about, he hadn't been doing this very long. He has a story on his website about how he was singing that as a little child. A little girl passed with the family, and they kept singing it as the child passed on. And they kept singing it for maybe 15, 20 more minutes as nurses came in and wrapped the child up and put her in the mother's arms, and they kept singing, "Angel, angel." He said that experience changed me, and enriched him in a deep way, that what he was doing, sharing his gifts in this way, was a real blessing, and something he could do, and something that felt like, ooh, this is satisfying, this is nourishing, this is something that can be a blessing to others and a real blessing to me. He's doing it years later. He still goes whenever he's in home, which is much of the time. He goes into the children's hospital every week and does some singing and songwriting with children. And knowing the joy of service, he leads volunteers every every year to India or Thailand, and they visit orphanages and they sing songs, and they visit schools and they sing songs with children. I know Tom has done some of the same work probably. I remember him talking about, haven't you done this song, I Love the Rain, in that kind of a setting. Music is a way, in a way, nearly all musicians kind of are sharing their gifts in a way that really bless others, and it comes back at them. Music lifts the soul. Do you agree? Music is healing. Music is deeply nourishing, and when it can, so musicians are privileged in a way that they have that kind of gift to flow through them. But it can be anything. It depends on how your juices flow, how your creative energy flows. There are more ways to serve than we can imagine, more ways to bless others and ourselves. So it kind of has to do with how our juices flow. For me, a lot of it has to do with ministry in some form. No big surprise there. I remember at a time when I was between churches, I felt a little useless. I was kind of used to doing more, and I was writing a book. I was trying to finish a book, which was good, but I can't be at a desk and write 8 hours a day. You can't do that. And I was used to more interaction with people and so on. So my mother-in-law was living at a retirement community near us, and we were over there pretty often. So I asked their activity director if they'd like a weekly prayer circle and kind of a hymn sing-along, just sing some hymns and share prayer requests, pray, sing, real simple, nothing big. And she said, oh, I like the sound of that. That sounds good. And especially if there was no charge. We were just doing it. People tend to say yes when there's no charge. So Joe and I started doing that every Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And it was a pretty simple format. We just chairs in a circle, and we'd sing some hymns. We put a little hymn songbook together for the retirement center. And then we'd share prayer requests, and we'd sing the Lord's Prayer maybe, and we sang in the garden pretty much every week. I'll Fly Away pretty often. They asked for Old Rugged Cross a lot. We never did do that one. I just couldn't work it up somehow. But we did whatever they wanted pretty much. We sang those old songs, and you could tell there's a lot of comfort for people in hearing those old hymns that they heard growing up down through the years. And that was during that period that I discovered what an organic thing church is. It's a very natural thing for the development of church. I'd never thought about it before, but because in no time at all, people were helping with, we called it walker valet service. As people came in with their walkers, they all had to be put somewhere, and it was kind of something. Sometimes people, and at the end, you had to make sure that person got the right walker to leave there. And so somebody would be assisting with that and passing along around the songbooks around the circle. So we had ushers, just that organically and naturally. We had ushers. We always took along roses and chocolates. We had passed out a flower and a chocolate at the end. People helped with that. People started bringing other refreshments to share. We had a fellowship team. We had ushers, fellowship team. It's amazing how organic it is. And the blessings just abounded. For us, I felt nourished by being more useful and feeling like I'm doing something that might be blessing others. They were blessed by being able to share prayers with one another and know that others were supporting them in prayer. These are humble little things. These are not huge gifts to share. These are things we can all do. And then I was so struck. I watched, we record CBS Sunday morning so that we can watch those programs once in a while. And you watch it, I pick all kinds of lovely stories up from it about humble people around the world doing nice things. And this one was earlier in September. A man in Pittsburgh named John Potter, some of you might have caught some news about this guy. He started a volunteer service thing he calls Pittsburgh Good Deeds. That's what it says on his van. And he has a website if you want to look it up. I think it's pittsburghgooddeeds.org. And he will help people with whatever they need help with. And he's got a list of all these. He was kind of a handyman by trade. He's got quite an extensive list on his website of things he could help you with. And it's everything from helping with a car repair or finishing a roofing job or pet sitting or babysitting or cleaning or transportation somewhere, all kinds of things that he'll come and help you with if you live within 10 miles of Pittsburgh, and if you just say, I can't afford to do it, and I need help. And he was asked by an interviewer, do you get scammed sometimes, And he said, don't care. Don't care. I feel happy at the end of the day. I feel good. So it's working for me. The mission of his non-profit, I guess, or his organ, our only mission is to love our fellow Pittsburgher. And how wonderful. And it started because there was a time when he didn't give, and he felt so bad about it. There was a time, maybe 5 years ago now, he's been doing this for a little over 4. He was approached on the street by a woman who asked for a ride to the local domestic violence shelter or money for a bus, and he said, sorry, no, and regretted it like at once. And that haunted him. And this idea formed, I'm not going to do that again. In fact, I'm going to help in any way I can. I'm going to help in any way I can. And he started doing that, and it's amazing. He said, if I can go out there and help somebody experience what love is, just between neighbors, that's sweet. That's sweet. I go to bed at night happy, and that's all I care about. He's getting some deep nourishment from this that you can't put a price tag on. He does not make a lot of money. Some people can make a donation, he welcomes that, and some people can pay him for some of his handyman services in their homes. But mostly, he does it for the love of it, and he's being nourished, soul level. That soul hunger is being fed, it's being filled. And there's so many avenues of service. It's just, if we had a discussion afterwards and shared ideas about how we or people we know are sharing their gifts and abilities with others, the list would be endless. As endless as there are people, I think. We know a person, former dog sitter for us, she's much involved in fostering and placing rescue dogs. We have another friend who volunteers regularly at the Humane Society in the kitty cat division, being a great cat lover. I have another friend who serves as a friend and companion to an elderly person in a nursing home without family support. We do some music at a nursing. We did music at a nursing home last week, and people love hearing old songs, and they may not have much memory left for other things, but you start singing Amazing Grace, and they're going to be with you, and it's going to feel nourishing to them, and you're going to be nourished by it. The avenues through which we can share our gifts are endless, and the blessings, the nourishment for us that can come from it, inestimable. So it's something to reflect on. Are you using your gifts in some way that blesses others? Or is it something that maybe you need a little bit more of in your life? Open up some new avenues in some way of sharing who you are and what you have, which is more than we ever imagine. We have so much more to share than we ever imagined. I love this little poem by Tagore. It's a quote I've seen many times. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I woke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Isn't that nice? I love that discovery. And I think that's a discovery we all make anytime we put our gifts in motion and share them in some way with others, with a loved one, with a neighbor, with a friend. And it can be in very small ways. And the blessings can be immense from them. Soul hunger is in fact a great blessing as we track our hunger and begin to reflect on what nourishes us deeply, what would nourish us more deeply, what we need more of. As we spend time in silence and solitude with our inner antenna up, listening for guidance in that, ideas will arise. You have this to share. This is who you are. This is how your creative energies flow. You're meant to express them, get them out there. And then as we discover that in silence and solitude, avenues will open for us to share them in community. And we'll move out with them into community to share them. And then the joy of service and the deep enrichment, nourishment that comes from that sharing in community will bless us. And we will feel more and more full, filled up, nourished deeply, and blessed deeply by the grace of God. And that's, I think, how we're meant to live, with that kind of fullness and that kind of joy. So here's my affirmation for the day, for this talk that may be done, but I'm not sure. And it goes like this: in silence and in service, my soul is deeply nourished. Together? In silence and in service, my soul is deeply nourished. Let's take that into prayer for a moment and affirm that truth within. God is nourishing us moment by moment, day by day, year by year, as we listen inwardly, as we stay in contact with that deep wellspring of wisdom and love in us, and let it guide us in what is ours to do. And as we step out on that and share our gifts with others, we are a blessing to them and to ourselves, and we are fed deeply.